This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
What's up, everybody? We are locked and loaded on a Wednesday as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. We're coming to you live, as always, from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Got a lot to get to, so let's set the table for the next 2 hours like we always do. If you would, please, let's hit the rundown.
Time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
All right, our top items coming up today on Money Moves, coming up in 30 minutes. Kendall Valenzuela, Fantasy Life in her usual Wednesday spot. We're going to get the lowdown on a handful of NFL injuries, who you might want to pick up on the waiver wire. We'll also have professional handicapper Paul Bovey join us, give out some NFL and college football plays.
Yes, the famous hairless Paul Bovey will be with us. Body hair, not on the top of the head. He's got a full head of hair there. Can't wait to see what he's got. A lot of totals in college football. Some thoughts, of course, on some NFL games as well. And a Circa Friday Football Invitational contestant. That's the important part. I love watching the CFFI on Fridays. Although Paul did not know what CFFI meant when I texted him. So I had to explain to him it's the contest that you're in on Fridays. Yes, exactly. But very much looking forward to get Paul's perspective. We actually got a couple of CFFI contestants on this week. Tomorrow we'll have Chris Massaro in studio, so looking forward to it.
Very good. We will also have our weekly edition of West Coast Bias, while other people might be looking at Miami, Florida State, Vandy, Alabama, Florida, Texas. That's cool. But can I interest you in a little San Jose State, New Mexico, a little UNLV, Wyoming? Let's have some fun.
So you're busy on Saturdays, but I think you know me by now. This weekend is my weekend. I mean, we're crushing it up. We're snorting it. We're putting it right in the veins, baby. San Diego State, Colorado State, absolutely incredible. New Mexico with the potential chance, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, to carve their way through to, dare I say, a Mountain West title game in this this weekend, in terms of the West Coast games, your game. I am legitimately excited to watch Duke and Cal. It's a very good litmus test for this Cal team, which is great in the early going. So, yeah, dude, West Coast games this week, all about it.
I was about to say, don't forget about the late night game out there in Berkeley, 7:30 Pacific on ESPN. Let's go. Listen, all the tickets cash the same, ladies and gentlemen. We'll also have Why Not Wednesday, look at some long shot props, less traditional bets, plenty of NFL news and notes. But we start the day on the diamond because October baseball is no longer upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It is here. Potential elimination games on deck today. 4 of them. One game already in action. Tigers and Guardians on ESPN. The Cleveland Guardians down 1-0 here in the series after falling to the Tigers yesterday. On the board first with the solo shot, up 1-0. They did close minus 136 favorites with Tanner Bybee on the hill, taking on Casey Mize on the other side. Run total in this one, 7. We're in the 4th inning right now and just 1 run scored.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this with Adam Burke yesterday. Senior editor here at VSiN.com wrote all of these and is a Cleveland Guardians superfan. Mm-hmm. This seems to be what the makeup of the series is going to be like. We're in the 4th inning, so there's still plenty of time, but 2 really mundane, below average offenses that lack some pop, going at it with some pretty decent front-end starters, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I think this is going to be the makeup of this. And how about this? The in-game total right now over at DraftKings, 4.5. Now heavily shaded to the over at minus 160. So maybe we get a leadoff runner here. But either way, this is something where it's going to be a tight series, I think, every single game. There's only 3 of them, but every single one of them should be very, very dramatic.
Yeah, and so we mentioned the closing total sitting 7. Live total now 4.5. So that gives you some indication as to what is expected with these lineups moving forward. The Guardians up 1-0 are around minus 250. Live favorites where things sit. If you think the Tigers can come back, almost plus 200, around plus 195, the price that's available for you there. We'll keep tabs on that game as we go. Coming up at noon, though, we will get game 2 of the Padres and Cubs. Dylan Cease going for San Diego. About a pick'em price here, depending on where you look at DraftKings. San Diego minus 106. The Cubs, who took game 1, minus 115 with Andrew Kittredge going. Low total in this one as well, 6.5. And you will sense a theme with these low totals now that we have playoff baseball.
Yeah, and we have some of these instances, right, with where they're playing. For example, in Chicago today, winds blowing in. I think it's at about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Let me double check from exactly what the speed's going to be. But either way, wind blowing in about 10 miles an hour. So that's going to affect what you're seeing in that ballpark. Market really loves to bet those down. So Kittredge is going to open. Shota Imanaga is going to follow him here. I think this is really about what you're going to get from Dylan Cease. We had talked about this at length with Adam. Cease, if you looked at the underlying metrics for him, it would paint a picture of a guy who throughout the season has been somewhat unlucky. 4.55 ERA, 3.56 fielding independent. You look at some of the strikeout numbers. They're there for him in terms of strikeout rate. One of the better ones that you're going to see, striking just about 30% of opposing hitters. Walk rate is okay, but at least you're balancing it out with some strikeouts. But the results just have not been there for him. Opponents on batting average of balls in play, over 300, in fact, over 320 at this point right now. So Cease, to me, is the wild card. If, for whatever reason, these bad luck starts, these issues start to kind of get back in here and take shape with what we're seeing with these metrics, then you can make a case for this dude and this Padres team being pretty live in this spot if Cease can give them something in that regard. And I thought Adam put it out well when we talked about this yesterday, where Shota Imanaga, if you look at some of his underlying numbers, it's not really the same guy. 3.73 ERA, but a 4.86 fielding independent. You look at the way he closed out the season, Stormy, he gave up at least 3 earned runs in every start from the end of August up until the end of the regular season. And then the last time we saw him against the Mets, he got cooked for 8 earned, taken deep twice. So all of this being said, a lean toward the Padres to win this game today, just because I think Cease can put something together. But I have been burned throughout this regular season trying to capture that regression for Cease. It's never really appeared.
A lot of people, meanwhile, have been burned trying to bet in the futures markets on San Diego historically. So we'll see if they can push this series out to a third game, see if they can make something happen. We talked with Ariel Epstein on the program yesterday as well, that when they, at the deadline, made some of the adjustments that they did, we talk about the bullpen numbers that they have and how good they've been in that area. You want to believe in San Diego, but can they actually do it is another question. So we'll see that game beginning at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern on ABC. Then as we begin the night segment of the wild card rounds, ESPN 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Red Sox and Yankees. And boy, do we have some drama in the Bronx yesterday, and what was an eventual 3-1 win for the Red Sox forces a win or go home game for the Yankees today. Yankees in the top of the 7th inning, up 1-0. Aaron Boone pulls Max Fried.
Yeah, he pulls Fried with nobody on and with 1 out. And so you're thinking like, man, like, what are we doing here? Why are we going to pull him when he's like looking somewhat okay? And then, of course, the bullpen comes in. Weaver comes in, immediately gets got, and then they end up losing the game 3-1. They also load the bases in the 9th, but I wanted to stick with Boone. I think we have this if we do, Justin, because he was getting murdered yesterday for the decision. Here he was explaining exactly why he wanted to pull Fried.
Yeah, just they pressured him pretty good in the 4th, 5th, 6th. Had a couple base runners each inning. So I felt like he kind of cruised through the first few, and obviously he ends up pitching great, but I felt like he had to work pretty hard, and I was going to have the 6B at the end, but once we finished with the double play, I wanted him to go out and get Duran, and then felt like we were lined up.
So he goes out and gets Duran, as he said, gets him to ground out. But I don't know, man. The Yankees bullpen isn't great. And I know that Boone's getting killed by a lot of people. Having said that, don't you need your offense to give you something more than just 1 run? I mean, Max Fried goes out there and gives you 6 1/3 of scoreless baseball. Looks incredible. Gets nothing to show for it pretty much, except for 1 run. It's courtesy of a solo shot. Like that, I understand wanting to kill Boone to an extent, but at some point you got to be able to trust your bullpen. And then at some point you need to trust your offense, which under Boone in these last few years, especially last year, has not really been the most consistent in the postseason.
Well, and in particular last night, Yankees were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. They load the bases with no out in the 9th and failed to get a runner home. Giancarlo Stanton among those guys that goes up, and he's called out swinging. So a tough ending, certainly, for the Yankees. Yankees fans, I know. New York now 1-9 against Boston, their last 10 postseason games, including 3 straight series.
So we move forward to today. Like you said, the series, as much as I hate to admit it, it was a good game yesterday. We talked about how, while we were on the air, the output of Tarek Skubal and these pitchers, Crochet and Fried were both great, but Crochet was great, 7 2/3, 11 strikeouts, the solo shot that I mentioned. So now you get today, Bello's going to get the start for the Red Sox. And Bello's been rock solid, man. 3.35 ERA, 4.19 fielding independent. He has done very well throughout the season to be consistent. There was a time at the beginning of the year, if you remember, when we were in like the heat of summer, where it looked like there was going to be this big differential, this discrepancy, and he was going to be a guy worth playing against, but that has not been the case. He's going to go out and give him a pretty good effort and at least a chance here to get into this game, but he's not exactly perfect. He's given up at least 3 earned runs in 3 of his last 5 outings, so you're probably going to need run support if you're Boston. And Carlos Rodon gets the start here Rodon's been very good this season. If you look at the way that he has pitched at home so far this year, it's been really solid for the most part. But a 4.21 fielding independent would tell you that maybe there is some room for some regression compared to that 2.98 ERA that he sports when he pitches in the Bronx. But we'll see if this is going to be the case. Small lean toward the Yankees, but I got priced out of it at $1.88 here today.
Then in the nightcap on ESPN, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern, the Cincinnati Reds and Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers got played up yesterday, and it was the right call in an eventual 10-5 win. They're getting bet today as a big favorite again. Minus 242 favorites at open with Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the hill. Out to as high as minus 292 at DraftKings. I see around minus 280, kind of your consensus-ish number here. Yesterday, we saw Shohei Ohtani go yard in the bottom of the first to open up the scoring. He hit a pair. Teoscar Hernandez hit 2 home runs as well, which included a 3-run shot in the third. They, by the way, just the 5th pair of teammates with multiple home runs in the same playoff game in postseason history. First pair to do it in a series opener, but a 10-5 win yesterday, and Dodgers getting played again today to close out the Reds.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame him at this point. I guess is the angle, because it sucks. Like, Green was going to be your best shot. Like, have Green give you a shot, and then maybe get to that bullpen, and then from there, they did the damage against the bullpen a little bit, but Green got rocked and didn't really help you out. In game over, if you're going to maybe get to that bullpen at some point, is that the way to go here? But you got to think that you're sticking a fork in the Cincinnati Reds at this point.
Yeah. Minus 292 favorites probably for a reason.
I was hoping, man. I was hoping they'd be a little plucky with Green, maybe steal one, make the Dodgers sweat and have to win the last 2, but it does not seem that this is going to be the case.
Yeah, Zach Littell starting things out on the other side. We'll see how this goes. If you do think that the Reds might have a little bite, plus 231, but I'm with you. I think put a fork in them, they're done. Run total for this game sitting 8. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Tanner Bybee is in a little bit of hot water. Not really great. Kind of lukewarm. Runner on third, 2 outs, and a 2-2 count. So we'll see if he can get out of this thing.
Yeah, and we'll be keeping you updated with those live lines on that game throughout the course of the hour. And we're just getting started here on Money Moves. The phrase bad beat is often overused in 2025. There is no other way to put what happened last night in the W. We'll break down what happened, as well as the odds for the WNBA Final, and plenty of NFL news on the way next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, First Bet and VSiN are teaming up with a special offer right now. Open and deposit into a new First Bet account. You'll get up to $250 in a sign-up bonus when you use our promo code VSiN250. That's VSIN 250. Then place $100 in wagers within your first 30 days. You'll unlock a full year of VSiN Pro as well. That's another $240 value included. But if you're already a subscriber, don't worry. We've got you covered too. We'll extend your subscription for another full year. This offer does end this coming Sunday, though, October 5th. So don't wait. To claim the offer, again, use our promo code VSiN250 when you sign up in the First Bet app or at firstbet.com. The number one, stbet.com. Okay, the WNBA Finals are set. The 4-seed Mercury, who knocked off the top-seeded Lynx, RIP, in the semis, taking on the number 2 seed Las Vegas Aces. This series beginning here in Las Vegas, coming up on Friday. The Aces punching their ticket last night with a 107-98 overtime win and cover against the Indiana Fever in Game 5. And if you had the Fever, plus 8.5, you are absolutely freaking sick this morning, JVT. They played within that number all night, forced overtime with the game tied at 86. It's a 3-point game with 22 seconds to go in OT, and they still do not cover the 8.5. Yeah,
that was pretty gross. I mean, even if you just go to overtime and just say, hey, 8.5-point dog doesn't cover, that's still disgusting. The way that it goes down at the end of that game, absolutely ridiculous. And it's almost like a microcosm of what this Vegas Aces season has been. I mean, the unthinkable continues to happen for this team. We'll see if they can get past the Mercury, who I think I put in the rundown. What was the stupid thing that they put out after they made the WNBA Finals? They're like the first WNBA team to make it to 2 finals in a 5-year span without a single carryover player. according to the Mercury themselves. So that's quite, look at this. Yeah, rebuilt for the moment. So this is going to be quite the opponent that the Aces have to take on here when the WNBA Finals start. But just think about what they've had to do. This 18-game winning streak, Asia Wilson, I don't want to say stealing because that sounds very negative, but I'll say it for lack of a better term, stealing the MVP from
spoken like a true Nafisa Collier ticket holder.
By the way, side note, did you see your press conference yesterday?
Awesome.
Very good. So everything that does, all this happens, and then you get here where in the overtime, your opponent completely blows it. By the way, I am distracted as I believe 2 runs are driven in here. Bybee really scuffled a bit. He loaded the bases, and we have a hit that is going to drive in 2, I believe, and that is going to be the case. So the Tigers up 2-1 right now, top of the 4th. Okay. Runners on 2nd and 3rd. So we'll keep our eye on what's going to happen there. But a rough inning right now for Bybee, who had 1 on but 2 outs. Yeah. And couldn't get out of it without some damage. Big
for that live total, by the way, that we were talking about last segment at 4.5 as well. So we go from a 1-run game to a 3-run game all of a sudden in the 4th inning and ways to go.
But anyway, so I'm really interested in this. So you can talk about momentum all you want. Mercury might have a small rest advantage as we talk about the WNBA Finals getting started, as the Aces had to get pushed to the final winner-take-all game. But this team and the way they're playing, their defense has really improved over the course of this, we'll call it winning streak, even though it's been snapped up a little bit here over the course of the postseason. And the fact that their three-point shooting, I mean, one of the big reasons why they had turned things around in the early portion of the year, Storm, was their three-point shooting had been abysmal, and their opponents were actually shooting really well. So on the opposite sides of the spectrum, now they finally kind of met in the middle, and at one point they were shooting better than their opponents. So you have this offensive run that is back now. You have the best player on the floor in Asia Wilson. I mean, they're rightfully favored, and I hate this non-data malarkey at times, but there's something to be said of having the championship DNA and understanding what goes into winning these things. And
an advantage in the series this season. If you go back and look at the head-to-heads this year, Asia Wilson didn't play in that first early season meeting. She had a concussion. That was a 76-70 Aces loss. She did play the other 3 meetings, all of which the Aces won in regulation. 2 of those 3 wins did land on the 3, which is what we see is that game 1 spread coming up on Friday. I'm looking to the Aces, though, in the series, and there are a handful of different ways. I was curious about some of your thoughts on how I might want to play it. Minus 135 series favorites, which is probably the easiest way to play it, just a simple result. They also have the to win game 1 and to win the series at plus 125. Aces minus 1.5 games, also available plus 150. There's a lot of different options to do this. How would you play it if given one?
I mean, I just bet and win the series.
Just lay it and go.
I mean, like, if you think they're going to win the series,
I do.
You're right. And, everything you're betting into there when you're talking about the game 1 and the series result and it's all derived from that series price anyway. And the other thing that is, for at least like that, right? So for the series, they're only like $1.35 favorite, you said. I think I understand more if you're going to go like game 1 result and series result, like that prop, if it's a massive favorite. If it's like a Celtics minus 550 to win a series or something like that. I can understand it, but they're $1.35 favorite.
Fair.
I think they're going to win, and it gives you the leeway because you need that result in game 1. Lay the series price at a fair price that you think it is, and then guess what? You don't have to win game 1.
All right, I'm going to add that to our best bets at the end of the show today. Aces in the series. Let's roll. We do have a lot of NFL notes and news that came through, including the Cleveland Browns officially making it clear from their end. We saw the reports yesterday.
Making it official?
I didn't want to say official twice.
Officially official.
I didn't want to say it twice.
Ian Rappaport does it all the time. Quick update. So Tigers tried to extend the play on that hit. It initially was called safe at third. It is reviewed out. So the second run does not count. So this is now tied.
Okay.
Now the inning is over. So that was the final out. But in extending the play, I don't know if it was McKinstry or who it was, but he got called out at third trying to extend it out. And so the 2 runs will not count. Only one of them will. We have a tie game.
All right, tied at 1 here midway through the game. The Browns, though, making it official. Dillon Gabriel will start Sunday's game against Minnesota in London. Also, as a part of that, Joe Flacco will be the backup still. Shedeur Sanders, QB3 on the depth chart for inquiring minds. A 4.5-point spread against the Vikings in this spot. And we talked about how low that total was yesterday, 35.5 now in that one. But overall, I think the Browns just made the right decision moving on. Flacco hasn't done anything, and you've got 2 young quarterbacks in your room. You want to see what they are.
Yeah. I am very curious to see what this is going to look like. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to start in this situation. I think you'd want like the most perfect spot, which is at home and the most comfortable situation possible. But I mean, look, it's the NFL. Every game's going to be tough, even if you just get to do it in Cleveland, where you're kind of used to everything going on with the practice facility, running practice, things like that. So I think it's going to be a hill to climb regardless for Dillon Gabriel. And I think you're seeing in the way this game's going to look. It's a total of 36.5. Vikings are 4.5-point favorites. Not much is expected of this team's offense in this game here. Offensive line's pretty average to below average in terms of pass pro. We talked about the differential in the numbers and Flacco holding onto the ball too long, receivers not getting separation, Tillman's injured. So this offense, I think he's going to be up against it regardless. And I wouldn't expect that a rookie against this defense on a neutral in Tottenham is going to be able to come out here and put together an effort that is going to at least wow us to this point. I think you probably lean a little bit here toward the Minnesota Vikings in this spot.
Probably. This is a stay away game for me. I really just want to see what Dillon Gabriel is, but it should be better regardless from what we've seen from Joe Flacco, considering he has an NFL high 8 turnovers, a 27.0 QBR ranking only above Cam Ward for qualifying passers. This offense is only average about 14 points per game. So some sort of a spark, maybe the young guy can bring it and at least bring a different look, if nothing else. You
know, it's interesting too, and we do these on Friday, so we're curious to see where they land from a market rating standpoint. You know, this Vikings team was laying 2.5, shaded to that favorite side against the Steelers. And now here they are just laying 4.5 against the lowly Browns. So it does give you a sense of where this team was prior and maybe a change in the way that they've been rated here. But it is pretty interesting to see, given what they were laying against Pittsburgh and now where they're at here against the Cleveland Browns.
For the Raiders, you thought this would be the case, but officially official that Colton Miller is on the reserve injured list.
You said it. Yes. I mean, look, this offensive line stinks. So what does this now mean for them? They have to go on the road. They have to take on the Indianapolis Colts. The offensive line, from a run blocking standpoint, has been very poor. Now you have an offensive line missing its best player, having to take on a team that has been generating pressure for the most part in the above average level. And what's this going to look like, especially with a quarterback who's got this interception problem now all of a sudden? Geno throws, 3 picks last week. 2 of them are on the exact same play. It just seems like this Raiders team is in a very bad spot. And I'll be curious to see what the market wants to do with Ashton Genty in this rushing prop after such a big game last week. But with the absence of Colton Miller, would it be time to maybe come in here and bet an under on some Genty props if the market overreacts a little bit too much? Because the other part is too, Stormy, if we're right in that, hey, this is a 7-point spread, maybe the game script is going to be this team's going to be playing from behind, that would mean that cuts into Genty's role as well on the ground too. So I am very curious to see how the market will respond to that, but this will very much be a popular survivor play. I would expect 1 or 2 on the board. That game out to 7, as is the San Francisco 49ers game against the Rams. Los Angeles now laying 7. And I was about to say another candidate. I know in your mind, Brock Purdy did tell reporters he's hopeful that he can play, but I would say feels unlikely. I don't know. How do you see it? I mean, it seems pretty unlikely given everything we've seen at this point. And again, it's just like, why would you roll him out there? If he played one game and then all of a sudden came out of it, and it was like, yeah, the toe, it's just, I'm feeling it again, and I might not be at full strength. Why would you run that risk? I think this seems like more gamesmanship than anything else. Like, ooh, we might play Brock Purdy. But there's really not that much of a difference right now between Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. He hasn't practiced yet this week. We'll see what comes out today. Neither, by the way, have Juwan Jennings or Ricky Pearsall. So both DNPs Monday and Tuesday, which is significant, especially with a Thursday game. Again, that spread sitting 7 on Thursday night. And we'll preview that game at length tomorrow. Tons of different prop options available. Total there, 46.5. There are a couple other injuries of note that are important, which I think will be a good opportunity to talk to Kendall Valenzuela next of Fantasy Life, break down how those injuries might impact you from a fantasy and prop perspective coming up in week 5 in the NFL. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Wednesday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you. Time to get into a little fantasy and prop angle perspective as we welcome Kendall Valenzuela to the program on the Progressive guest line, as always, fantasy football analyst over at Fantasy Life, catcher as well on SiriusXM Fantasy Channel 87. And Kendall, not only are the first week of buys here, so there are a handful of marquee players that people count on that they're not going to be able to have in their lineups this week, but like we have said every week that we have welcomed you on the show, more season-ending injuries are upon us as well. So a lot of angles to get into today.
Yeah, I feel every single week, guys, I think I come on here and I say, well, it can't get worse, right? Everything's going to be better next week. And then every single week, the NFL and just the injury gods prove me wrong. So there's a lot that I will say this, there's some good guys that you can still pick up off the waiver wire. But yeah, you said that you've got 4 teams on a bye this week. It's the Falcons, the Bears, the Packers, and the Steelers. And a lot of injury news even today. So I'm ready for you guys. Whatever you got for me, we can break it down.
All right, well, let's start with one of the ones that's kind of not late developing. I know it's only Wednesday, but it came as a surprise. Bucky Irving and the Buccaneers, they're also taking on your Seahawks, so you can give us some insight here. But what's going on with this situation?
Yeah, it's not good. It's all these situations are awful. And this was one where we started hearing rumors yesterday. I believe that, Bucky Irving was going to go get some scans, and we were like, okay, wait, well, what's this about? What's the injury? We didn't even know it until today. And so, Bucky Irving right now has a foot sprain. So they are saying that it's not expected to be a long-term injury, but we heard the same thing with Trey Benson just a few days ago. And now we'll talk about Trey Benson, I'm sure, here in a minute. But he is considered week to week. So Bucky Irving week to week means that you go and you pick up Rachaad White. I think if there's anyone that you want to look for, it is Rachaad White in this situation. We've seen him in this spot before. So he would be on the very top of the pyramid of someone that you'd want to go and get. And then it would be Sean Tucker. Now, I don't think it's going to be one of these things where one of them completely takes over. They're both going to be getting some work. But Rachaad White is the running back that you want to go and get. And this is a big blow for a team with Bucky Irving and for any Bucky Irving managers, because he's just been looking so good so far this season. So we hope it's just week to week and then he's able to come back. But don't expect him this week for sure.
So let's go to Trey Benson, the running back for the Arizona Cardinals, because we saw the report earlier this morning from ESPN's Adam Schefter that his status was going to be in doubt coming up this week, but it's not expected to be serious. And then Jonathan Gannon gets on the podium a little bit later and says, actually, he's going to be placed on the injured reserve list. So that's two very different things. Kendall, what's the approach here, especially knowing that Arizona's already down James Conner for the season?
Yeah, it's bad. If you have Trey Benson, he was placed on IR, I believe, or they're making that move here. So he is going to be, the expectation is that he's sidelined 4 to 6 weeks. And he actually underwent arthroscopic surgery on his meniscus. So they say 4 to 6 weeks. We always want to plan for the worst in fantasy football. So I'd plan for it to be longer just in case. But this is a team, like you said, already down Connor in this situation. So if you're looking at anyone, it's crazy to say Amari DiMercato again, but Amari DiMercato would be that guy, kind of the long down and distance running back that you can go and get. But Michael Carter, I feel like Michael Carter is going to get more work. And that's just a gut feeling from me. I've talked with Adam Ronis about it on our show today. We both kind of have the same feelings. So if it's wrong, I'll come back on here next week and be like, well, that stunk and that wasn't right. But both of these guys are going to get work regardless. So I think if Amari DiMercato isn't available to you in a lot of these, even in some of my deeper formats, I was able to go and put a bid in on Michael Carter. So I think you can go and get him. He's going to mix in. Same with Amari DiMercato here. And we just at this point have to see how they're going to roll both of these guys out, because I don't think anyone has a true idea of what it could look like, but both of them are definitely guys that you can go and pick up. And with the bye weeks, I'm starting one of them this week. I just hope I get one of them.
All right, let's talk about the Ravens really quickly, because we know what's going on with Lamar Jackson, and maybe we have some insight as to Cooper Rush as an option, as an emergency quarterback. But I'm more curious, Kendall, have you guys talked about what the effect of Jackson's absence would do for this Ravens offense and guys like Derrick Henry and others? I mean, I would assume it's less explosive. He's going to face more 8-man boxes, but what do you guys think about the impact?
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. I mean, you kind of said it. To me, I am upgrading my rankings here right after this, actually, and I'm going to downgrade a lot of these guys. Derrick Henry has been someone that, I mean, I think he still holds as a low-end RB1, but it's very game script dependent for this team right now, which is crazy that we're even saying that about the Baltimore Ravens at this point as well. So I know that they're trying to say that, there is still hope that Lamar Jackson tries to play, because I think they're in such a tough spot where we know with this Ravens team, same way we talk about the Chiefs sometimes, where they can get down at the beginning of the season and we still believe that they can come back, make the playoff push, all of that stuff. But once you get into week 5 and you start looking at some of their upcoming opponents and how they've been playing in these games, you think to yourself, wow, if they really don't have Lamar Jackson for 2, 3, 4 weeks, like what is this going to do for their season? So I'm downgrading, like you said, all the pass catchers. There can't be one guy that you're necessarily loving. Maybe Mark Andrews is the safety blanket there, but yeah, Derrick Henry especially, I mean, he's rarely used on passing downs right now anyway, so it's one of those things where he is game script dependent, but he's still a low-end RB1, but it just hasn't looked good so far. And Cooper Rush, if you're looking at Cooper Rush on the waiver wire, I think there are better options for you, to be totally honest. I wish I could say better things about him, but I think if you're going that far, you can either look at a Sam Darnold, a Matthew Stafford if you're in one of the non-deep kind of formats, or Jackson Dart, other guys. Spencer Rattler even, I think, is going to be a better option for you this week.
Yeah, Jackson Dart, interesting after making his debut, getting a win against the Los Angeles Chargers, showing what he can do with the mobility element of his game, which we know can be really important for fantasy. But he's now going to be down his number one target, Malik Neighbors, done for the season with a torn ACL. And we've talked a lot about how bare the cupboards have been for wide receivers out there on the waiver wire. What should the approach be for people trying to backfill a Neighbors' absence?
Yeah, listen, we all know, no one that you pick up off the waiver wire, unfortunately, is going to be Malik Neighbors. And I wish they were. I wish we had someone like that right now. But I think when we talk about, who to prioritize, it is Wan'Dale Robinson. I haven't mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson a ton on my show on Sirius because he's over 50, 60% rostered. So he's probably not going to be available to you. But if he is, he's definitely the top guy. And then it's Darius Slayton. And then it's Theo Johnson, to be totally honest. I think a lot of these guys are going to step up in the absence of Malik Neighbors. Again, you're not going to get the production like you get from Malik, but I think Theo Johnson actually is a sneaky tight end that you can go and pick up and say, you know what, if we're talking about a security blanket, we saw him catch that touchdown last week. And again, it was only 111 yards for Jackson Dart. But the one thing with him is that we're probably going to see him use his legs, continuing using his legs a little bit more. And we've talked about Cam Scatterbu before. He is going to continue being this pass catching running back. And I think that's another blanket or another element for Jackson Dart to kind of just check down to him to get things going there. So again, it stinks, but Darius Slayton is probably your waiver wire pickup. If you need a streamer tight end, though, I really do like Johnson going into the week as well.
What about the Houston Texans? We saw Woody Marks with a really big game in terms of touches and attempts. Is this his backfield going forward?
Yep, it sure is. I think it is. I mean, and I think he's better than Nick Chubb. And I think people who drafted Nick Chubb knew that could be potentially what's happening here. Because listen, we love Nick Chubb. If we were talking about good things right now with Chubb, it means that we get the guy that we saw a few years ago. But we know that he was coming back from such awful injuries, and he was just another year older. So Woody Marks for sure is someone like you saw a 58% snap share, 27.9 fantasy points in that game last week. And he was a good receiver in college too. He had a 22% targets per route run rate. And yeah, I think he's totally taking over this backfield. He's a low end RB2 for me in my rankings going forward. And I think he's priority. If for whatever reason you have the gift of Woody Marks on your waiver wires, we don't usually say spend all your money on a guy, but you would spend most, if not all your money to get someone like Woody Marks if you needed running back help for your rosters. But don't be shy with it. I think he should be rostered everywhere. And he's definitely taking over this backfield.
Kendall, anything else or anywhere else you think people should be looking or be aware of entering week 5?
I don't think so. Listen, you got Dillon Gabriel coming in. I think if you need a wide receiver in a deeper format, you can look to Isaiah Bond because Cedric Tillman is going to be on IR. So we know that he's going to miss at least 4 weeks of the season. And just be careful with the quarterbacks. Like really be careful with Brock Purdy tomorrow. Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, all of those guys, all questionable. So I would be careful and err on the side of caution that you might not have them. But yeah, go to the waiver wire. Just good luck.
Well, what's the fantasy impact of complaining and whining about your role? I assume we're getting a big AJ Brown game this weekend.
Oh, I'd hope so. I mean, I post when Adam's not talking to me, I post, quotes and stuff and I say, oh my gosh, he's not treating me right. And then all of a sudden I get what I want. So I'm hoping the same thing for AJ Brown.
I love it. Kendall, thank you so much for the time as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You can follow Kendall on X at KValenzuela17. All of the work over at Fantasy Life. She's got a full article breaking down a lot of what we just talked about and more on the online platform. And of course, check her out on SiriusXM Fantasy Channel 87. I think that people are probably going to be targeting a lot of AJ Brown this week.
I would assume.
Worth noting as well. From a fantasy perspective, on vsin.com, we have a wide receiver cornerback matchup tool for fantasy. We have Opta AI projections, which we've been utilizing a lot. I talked about it on Sunday with my Jake Tonjes prop. That ended up getting home. NFL prop analyzers, all of that available at vsin.com. When you are a subscriber, you get access to all of the tools as well as our articles, the exclusive betting picks each and every day from all of our show hosts and guests. VSiN.com/subscribe. When you use our promo code MONEY, you're getting 40% off right now for full VSiN access. Again, VSiN.com/subscribe, promo code MONEY. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Question, maybe a stupid one, but I'm just spitballing here.
Can it make you say why not?
That wasn't a stupid question.
It's time for Why Not Wednesday.
I mean, why not?
You know when they say it's so crazy it just might work?
All right, let's get into it. Have a little fun on this Why Not Wednesday. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. And I'm going to start off with a hockey play here. Curious.
Yes, finally, dude.
Yeah, and I'll have more of these trickling out over the course of the week and leading up to opening night, of course, next Tuesday.
I have to say, I am excited, and especially because I am now working with you as somebody who appreciates the sport of hockey. I blame all of my lack of coverage of the National Hockey League on Matt Humans, who never appreciated it. Neither did Tim Murray. I am excited for the hockey season.
It'll be fun.
Very much looking forward to it.
I think so, too. It'll be a good time. And my first Why Not Wednesday here is about the two-time defending champion Florida Panthers. I know that we've already seen a 5-game adjustment on their point total from 105.5 down to 100.5. Actually, most books have 99.5, but if you can find the 100.5, I like the under on that one. The adjustment came after Alexander Barkov was injured, torn ACL, MCL on the first day at training camp. Brutal for them. I still think they go under this number, though, and with him, the impact is significant. Not only is he their best player, but he's like one of the best two-way players in the entire National Hockey League. You added Matthew Tkachuk, who's also going to be out until at least December, if not January. And what's he going to be like when he does ultimately come back? The Atlantic Division is so tough with the Tampa Bay Lightning at the top, the Leafs, ascending teams. I know a lot of people think that the Ottawa Senators could be a sleeper in the division. And for as great and as deep as the Florida Panthers are as a team, these deep playoff runs have to have an impact on you at some point, right? And if your ultimate goal is to be able to make it back to the postseason and try, are you really going to be taking the regular season as serious and putting as much into it? I'm not so sure. I could see them being a little bit more in cruise control, trying to get healthy, resting guys when they need to, particularly at the end of the season. We also have the Olympic break this year, which they have a ton of guys that are going to be playing in the Olympics, and that's another 19-day segment of your season. I think at some point, all of the hockey that they have played the last couple years is going to add up, and at triple digits here, I think they go under points.
I would agree. I mean, look, you spun quite the yarn there, so I'm not going to disagree. So sure, why not? We talked about this with Jonathan Davis on the Pod to the Futures episode that is out now, so you can check that out wherever you get your podcasts, about how to handle this from a over-under standpoint for their points. He echoed a lot of what you were talking about. So I'll ask you a two-part question. One, if they're still going to go over this adjusted point total, 96 got you into the postseason last year. We'll ballpark it around there. Canadians were the lowest point total at 91. Does it get that bad? Like, are they in danger of missing out on the playoffs if they go under this point total like you believe? Or is there, this is the second part of the question, or is this a team where they go under the point total and at some point mid-year we're buying low on the Panthers as they get healthier?
The latter.
Okay.
I think that's the side of it. I think there are going to be potential buy points for them, but as far as the full season goes, I mean, they've gone under this number 2 of the last 3 years, too. You mentioned 96 is what it took for them to get into the postseason last year. I see them around that 90s range, enough to make the playoffs, but 100 is a lot to ask, I think, for a team with all they're going through.
Okay.
Oh, speaking of Jonathan Davis, I think this is also just good to point out. At vsin.com/NHL,
Yep.
he has an amazing portal right now on the website with team previews of each and every team, futures and awards markets, best bets, all of that stuff. So make sure you check it out. Where are you going first?
All right, I've only got 2 today because I like yours better, so I didn't want to add more. But let's start with college football first.
Okay.
A dog this weekend, but I believe in them. In fact, an offshoot of the canine, if you will, the Lobos, New Mexico. Can you say why not to the New Mexico Lobos, Stormy Buonantony, making it to the Mountain West Championship? We're talking about 14-1 here for New Mexico. Now, they get San Jose State this weekend. They are a 2.5-point underdog, under Wolf, if you will, and I think they can get this thing done. They do have to go to Boise after that. then it really does open up for them. Nevada, Utah State, both at home. They get Colorado State at home. Road trip to Air Force does not look as daunting as it once did near the end of the year. And then your San Diego State Aztecs, which you figure it out with them because nobody can.
What a joke.
And here they are. I mean, but it's also representative of what I'm talking about here because I mentioned Colorado State on the schedule. Your Aztecs are 6.5-point favorites. That's how far this has fallen for Colorado State. I think the Mountain West stinks. I think this is a really well-coached team with a core that's been playing together since their days at Idaho, including their head coach. Man, I don't know, but I think 14-1 just to make the Mountain West Championship. I understand there is a behemoth with UNLV lurking there. You get a head-to-head with them, though, here at Allegiant, and I think that they're a little fugazi with the way they've been playing at times.
Yeah.
Can you say why not to New Mexico getting to the Mountain West Championship game?
And you know what? It's interesting with their next couple games. They have San Diego State this week, but Boise State coming up after that.
Mm-hmm.
What's Boise going to be like after taking on Notre Dame?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's an interesting situational spot, too, for them. New Mexico's head coach is getting talked about for all these big jobs all of a sudden for the way that he's coached this team up.
I think X a good coach. He really does seem like that's the case. And, to again, kind of go back to like that one big blip on the radar with this game on the road, because you have to go to Boise State and UNLV.
Yeah.
Remember, we do have a like opponent for UNLV in New Mexico and UCLA. One of them smoked UCLA, and it was not UNLV.
Fair.
So I don't think that. I think this team's really well coached. I love the scheme of their offense. I've enjoyed watching them. I think they might be alive here to at least be a lot better in the Mountain West, and I wanted to kind of buy it in some way, shape, or form. So 14-1, longest shot.
I don't know if I see it actually happening, but I do like it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's fun. Okay, I'm going to do one that I think you'll appreciate. How about Barcelona?
There we go.
Taking on PSG today.
You did with the Spanish, the European Spanish enunciation.
Okay,
I like it.
I want to shout out our good buddy Chris Vaselli for helping me out with the play, because I've been trying to take more interest in your interests, and I did a little background research on this guy. Chris pointed out PSG is going to be down their 3 best players, and you go through it. It's including Ousmane Dembele, who's the reigning Ballon d'Or winner for best player in the world, so that's significant. Marquinhos, team captain, defensive leader, is going to miss several weeks with a left thigh injury. Barcelona's healthy, really good at home, and probably has a little added motivation too, considering they hope to be in the Champions League final against PSG last season. We're minutes away from qualifying, but ended up losing that in extra time. They're averaging 3 goals per game in La Liga. They're somewhere over 70% in average possession. Even with this being a different test, I like Barcelona. I also lean over 3.5 goals, but I'm just going to stick with the side here.
Let's go. Come on. I'm in. Yeah, why not? Let's do this thing. Play starts here in like 8 minutes.
Very excited.
So good. I'm glad you're going to be into this. We'll put it on the screen.
I'm ready to go. I've got a soccer bet today, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, if I can only get you fired up for the Queen's Park Rangers, who have a home fixture coming up here in a couple of minutes against Oxford United.
I can only do so much research in one day.
In the English Championship, which is the league below the English Premier League. So come on, let's go QPR. Let's go Rangers. Come on.
All right.
Let's go. Next up, okay, staying in college, can you say why not to CJ Carr to win the Heisman at 28-1 or better? Quarterback for Notre Dame. He has put together some pretty solid statistics so far. This offense looks legitimately good under his command. 9 touchdowns, 1 interception, just over 1,000 yards, high completion percentage. Not a big threat as a runner. It's interesting. They ran him actually quite a bit against Miami, but then since then he hasn't really done anything. Some of those quarterback draws, things like that. He looks like he's got the athleticism to do it. But either way, Carr is leading a team which could end up being 10-2. And look, we can say all we want about the schedule. If the committee is looking at a 10-2 Notre Dame, more often than not, they're getting into the postseason. So if you're going to give me the quarterback for the Golden Domers in a 10-2 record, he's going to be in the conversation in what I don't want to call is a weak Heisman field, because Dante Moore, I think, did really well against Penn State and deserves that status up at the top. But once you start to get to like 2 or 3, it seems pretty wide open for the race.
And it's not just a 10-2 record either. It's with the 2 losses against teams that are currently, by the way, top 6 in the country. A Miami defense that has been really good, and they scored 40 on A&M. Like, this offense, to your point, is a wagon. And if he's the one leading the ship, I know there's a lot of other pieces, Ja'Jarian Price, Jeremiah Love, like all of that. But if he, as a young guy who started slow and then really comes on the scene and leads this elite unit, I can say why not.
Okay.
Especially at that number.
Love it.
For my last one here, can you say why not to Talenti changing their packager? I don't know if anybody saw Dan Campbell on the podium a couple weeks ago talking about how he downs 3 pints of Talenti every night. Well, I walk by in the grocery store Talenti every day. and it looks good. And I finally gave it a try. Look at the gelato layers on the screen. That's not the one I get. I get the cookie. What's it called? Cookie butter. The cookie butter one. But they look incredible. I go to try to open this thing. Darn near sprained my wrist. It's a screw top. It's impossible to open. And you even said you were looking on Reddit. You saw somebody with a screwdriver?
I didn't know what this was, so I had to Google this once I saw it. I don't know what Talenti is at all.
Gelato ice cream.
But yes, so that immediately, actually, every result on Google was just about how hard it is to open.
I don't understand it.
Including one picture with a screwdriver like in the can because they were trying to open.
You have such a good product. All you need to do is make an easy lid. People have been making ice cream forever, and I've never had a problem opening a freaking thing in my life. This is impossible.
Sorry.
I'm very grateful that I have a gigantic husband who could open it for me, but I was like,
very true.
I like to think of myself as an independent woman. I can't even open my damn ice cream.
Gotta run under hot water. We have big breaking NBA news.
That.
Big breaking NBA news.
Is it big enough for you to say with 30 seconds?
Dorian Finney-Smith not going to be ready for the start of the season for the Houston Rockets. Now, you might scoff at that.
No,
remember, Fred VanVleet's already out.
Yeah, lots of health issues right now. And after they go out and get Kevin Durant. Look at me. I'm talking NBA.
Wow, look at that.
Who
Talking
am I
shop.
right now? Okay,
what a deep cut knowing that Kevin Durant signed with the Rockets.
Got to step aside. Listen, I aim to please. Lots more to come here on Money Moves. Don't go anywhere.